Have you ever felt it? That chilling whisper in the dead of night, when the old certainties crumble and the ground beneath your feet gives way, that dawning, terrifying realization that the maps you were given no longer describe the territory you inhabit. What happens when the grand narratives that once gave life its meaning, its purpose, its divine sanction, fall silent when the heavens are empty and man is left alone? This is not a mere philosophical curiosity. This is the tremor that runs beneath the surface of our modern lives. This is the abyss that Friedrich Nietzsche, with unflinching courage, stared into. And from that abyss, he brought back not a message of despair, but a challenge, a terrifying, exhilarating call to a new kind of creation. His infamous, often misunderstood proclamation, "God is dead," was not an act of gleeful iconoclasm. It was a diagnosis of a profound cultural and spiritual shift, a recognition that the foundations upon which Western civilization had built its meaning for millennia were irrevocably fractured. But more than that, it was an invitation for you to step into that void, not as a victim of meaninglessness, but as its master. This video will not offer you easy answers or comforting platitudes. Instead, we will delve into Nietzsche's radical solution to the death of God, the power that lies within you to create your own values, to forge your own meaning, and to become, in a profound sense, the creator of your own world. We will explore how his concept of the will to power is not a call to brute domination, but a call to the ultimate act of self-overcoming and life affirmation. If you are ready to confront these uncomfortable truths, to gaze into the mirror of your own potential, and to reclaim your mind from the shackles of outdated beliefs, make sure you subscribe to MindMirror and join our journey of intellectual and existential exploration. Together, we will seek not just to understand, but to transform. When Nietzsche, through the voice of his Zarathustra, declared, "God is dead," he wasn't merely making a theological statement. He was capturing a seismic shift in human consciousness. For centuries, the concept of God had served as the ultimate guarantor of meaning, the absolute foundation for morality, truth, and purpose. Think of it, the entire moral architecture of the West, its notions of good and evil, sin and redemption, reward and punishment, was built upon this divine bedrock. It provided a cosmic order, a sense of ultimate justice, and a promise of transcendent meaning beyond the chaos of earthly existence. But what happens when that bedrock crumbles, when scientific inquiry, philosophical critique, and a growing awareness of historical contingency erode the absolute claims of religious dogma? Nietzsche saw that the death of God was not an event to be celebrated lightly, but a profound crisis that would unleash an unprecedented wave of meaninglessness, of nihilism, upon the world. "Whither is God?" he cried. "I will tell you, we have killed him, you and I. All of us are his murderers. Do we not stray as through an infinite nothing? Do we not feel the breath of empty space?" This is not the boast of an atheist. It is the anguished cry of a man who understood the terrifying implications of living in a world stripped of its ultimate anchor. This death of God is the pain, the great question that confronts you. Perhaps you don't articulate it in theological terms. Perhaps it manifests as a persistent sense of anomie, a feeling that your life lacks an overarching purpose, that your values are merely arbitrary constructions, that your striving is ultimately for nothing. Nietzsche understood this. He saw that the old answers, the old comforts, were no longer sufficient. The good and evil handed down by tradition, The moral codes that once seemed absolute now revealed themselves as all too human, as historically conditioned, often as instruments of power or expressions of weakness. So, if the old gods are dead, if the old maps are useless, how do you navigate this new, uncharted territory? How do you find the courage to create meaning where none is given? This is the precipice upon which Nietzsche places us. And it is from this precipice that he points towards a radical, life-affirming path. For Nietzsche, the death of God is not an end, but a beginning. It is the terrifying, yet liberating realization that humanity is now solely responsible for creating its own values, for forging its own meaning. The void left by the absent God is not to be filled with despair, but with the creative assertion of life itself. And the engine of this creation, the fundamental drive that animates all existence, Nietzsche calls the will to power, der Wille zur Macht. Now, the term will to power is perhaps one of Nietzsche's most easily and dangerously misunderstood concepts. It is not a crude lust for domination over others, not a simple political or militaristic ambition. While it can manifest in those forms, its essence is far deeper, far more fundamental. The will to power, for Nietzsche, is the intrinsic drive in all things to discharge their strength, to grow, to overcome, to expand, to become more. It is the force that drives the plant to reach for the sun, the artist to create, the philosopher to seek new horizons of thought, the individual to strive for self-mastery and self-overcoming. Zarathustra proclaims, "Where I found the living, there I found will to power, and even in the will of those who serve, I found the will to be master." This is not to say that everyone desires to rule over others, but that every living thing at its core desires to express its power, to affirm its being, to impose its form upon the world, even if that world is only the raw material of its own self. When the old values, the thou shalts of a dead God, no longer hold sway, humanity is faced with a choice: succumb to nihilistic despair, or embrace the awesome responsibility of becoming value creators. This is where the will to power as a creative force becomes paramount. It is the courage to say, "I will," in the face of a universe that offers no inherent thou shalt. So, to create new values that even the lion cannot yet accomplish, but to create itself freedom for new, creating that can the might of the lion do. Zarathustra teaches, describing the second metamorphosis of the spirit. The lion destroys the old, a necessary act of liberation. But it is the child, the third metamorphosis, that embodies the innocent, affirmative creation of new values, the holy yea to life, driven by the pure will to power. So, what does this mean for you? Adrift in a world where God is dead, it means that the responsibility for meaning, for value, now rests squarely on your shoulders. It means that you are called not to discover pre-existing truths, but to invent truths that affirm and enhance your life, your power, your unique perspective. It means transforming the "it was" of a meaningless past into the "thus I willed it" of a self-determined present. This is the ultimate intellectual tool Nietzsche offers: the power to legislate for oneself. To live in a world where God is dead, to embrace the will to power as the creative source of new values, is not a task for the faint of heart. It is the path of what Nietzsche, through Zarathustra, calls the Übermensch, the overman or superman, not a new species, but a new type of human being, one who has overcome the old man, the last man of comfort and conformity. Man is a rope tied between beast and Superman, a rope over an abyss. Zarathustra declares, What is great in man is that he is a bridge and not an end. This journey towards the Superman is fraught with peril. It requires the courage to abandon the safe harbors of traditional morality, to step beyond good and evil as they have been defined by the herd. For Nietzsche, the traditional concepts of good and evil were not divine revelations, but human, all too human constructions, often born from the resentment of the weak against the strong, or the desire of the herd to domesticate and level the exceptional individual. The death of God exposes the arbitrariness of these old tables of values. The creator of new values, the one who lives by their own will to power, must necessarily appear evil in the eyes of those who cling to the old morality. Zarathustra, companions the Creator seeketh, not corpses and not herds or believers either. Fellow creators, the Creator seeketh those who grave new values on new tables. This is the burden and the glory of the Superman, to stand alone, if necessary, against the prevailing winds of public opinion. This doesn't mean a descent into chaotic selfishness or a brutal disregard for others. Rather, it means a revaluation of what constitutes true goodness. For Nietzsche, true goodness is not the timid virtue of the herd, but the overflowing strength, the creative generosity, the life-affirming joy of the self-mastered individual. It is the bestowing virtue of Zarathustra, who, like the sun, gives of his abundance without seeking reward. Verily, a new good and evil is it verily, a new deep murmuring, and the voice of a new fountain power is it. This new virtue, a ruling thought is it, and around it a subtle soul, a golden sun, with the serpent of knowledge around it. This new virtue is born from the courage to define for oneself what is life-enhancing, what serves the growth of one's will to power in its most creative, self-overcoming sense. So, how do you create meaning when God is dead? You do so by becoming a creator yourself, by recognizing the will to power within you, not as a force for mere domination, but as the wellspring of your capacity to interpret, to shape, and to value your existence. You do so by daring to question the old tables of good and evil, and by courageously inscribing your own life-affirming values upon new ones. This is not a path of ease, but it is, for Nietzsche, the only path worthy of a free and creative spirit in a world that has outgrown its gods. The death of God, as Nietzsche proclaimed it, is not a cause for despair, but a profound call to human responsibility and creative power. It is the moment when humanity, stripped of its celestial crutches, must learn to stand on its own feet, to look the abyss of meaninglessness in the eye, and to declare, "I will create." The intellectual tool Nietzsche offers through Zarathustra and his later writings is not a new set of dogmas, but a new attitude towards life, one of fearless questioning, radical self-reliance, and an unyielding affirmation of the will to power as the drive to grow, to overcome, and to give meaning to existence through creative acts of valuation. This means interrogating the good and evil you have inherited. It means understanding that values are not discovered, but made. It means finding the courage to become the poet of your life, as Nietzsche urged, to inscribe your own significance onto the blank slate of a godless universe. This is the terrifying freedom and the magnificent burden that comes with the twilight of the idols. The challenge is not to find new gods, but to find the godlikeness within ourselves, the power to say yes to life in all its beauty and its terror, and to will its eternal recurrence. What values will you create? How will you answer the silence of an empty heaven? Share your reflections, your struggles, your own will to power in the comments below. This is not just a philosophical discussion, it is an invitation to the most important creative act of all, the creation of a meaningful life. If this journey into the heart of Nietzsche's thought has ignited a spark within you, subscribe to MindMirror. Together, we will continue to explore the depths of the human psyche and the frontiers of philosophical inquiry, seeking not just to understand the world, but to reimagine it and ourselves within it. Our next video will delve into Nietzsche's concept of the Übermensch and what it truly means for your potential. Don't miss it.